when we started working together again, the first thing, of course, being the first recorded thing that was heard, Snake Drill. It was the way that we'd started, was the way we'd begun in the first place. It was sort of like two guitars, bass and drums, and it was the beat combo, as we called it. So we've been working with that for a few years now, and we'd felt that we'd come to a conclusion with the sound and how we'd been doing it live. And there were ways that we play numbers live varies. Should we say we extemporize and sometimes change things completely. Mm-hmm. And we felt that some pieces we hadn't got the most out of them, perhaps in the studio. And so what we did was to take, we had 4 multi-tracks from live shows. We went through those, we had them mixed by our sound engineer and John Fryer and Paul Kendall. And we listened to those, and we thought it would be a bit cheap to release a live record, although the crowd in Chicago were extremely good and very nice. So what we did was we left the drums and we started replacing things, and it meant that we were able to work in a spontaneous way. There was no sequencing or no computer, and we tried to get the spirit of the way we do it live, the edge, the noise, onto the record. And all you can hear now is I suppose you can hear the ambience of Chicago in the bass drum. Mm-hmm. So that's why the numbers are the way they are.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Colin? Any thoughts on that?
It's an analog, really. It's an analog of a live record.
And when you say an analog,
it's like you see it's like this whole period, this whole beat combo period. Mm-hmm. Why I did quite a lot was play live. We played on 3 continents, with varying degrees of goodness, but always it was different, and it was always interesting. That simple musical lineup is certainly one which we know fairly well. And we felt that we didn't have a record of the doings of the beat combo, and obviously we didn't want to do a straightforward live album, so that was why we came up with that thing. But it's part of an overall game plan in that this record also marks the end of the beat combo period, and we're now, as it were, advancing towards the reinvention of wire, about which I can say virtually nothing, because we don't know what it is yet.
Until it happens.
But I think the limited means, the guitars, etc., that we started with, were partly to do with the fact that we didn't have any money, and it would have been kind of absurd to, I guess, get cheap cents and start like that. We didn't really have the money to do that anyway, but, we have to look at a different way of working, I think, now.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing, I mean, that's something, I mean, the definite thing on that will start to take place in September, when we start to work, start to assemble ourselves to work towards, what we're referring to as a sort of 1990 mega album. And I think we start in a room with some machines, where we definitely don't set up like a rock group, and start fiddling and see what we can do. I think we've had, as it were, an analogue. We've had the project which follows this is an analogue of the reinvention. In that we've recently completed a project which is 6 versions of drill.
Just you recorded 6 different versions of drill.
Well, six. I think we call it drill as something to hang it on. 6 different pieces which have some vague relationship towards the piece drill. Some with singing, some without. They aren't really songs.
It's using the 16th rhythm. But no guitars and there are no drums played on it.
Wow.
We did this. It's basically a straightforwardly a sequencer project. Now,
So how do you do that for us non-technologically?
well, I mean, we basically
people?
see the thing is quite simply, because it's such a simple rhythmic device. I mean, drill is boom, 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 so you start with that, and then basically, build on that. So at least you have something to hang it on. That's in a way the way I say it's an analog for the reinvention, because we then have to take that process which we used to make some pieces where we basically had set ourselves, we'd already set up a frame for those pieces, to actually make some new pieces, some of which have to be songs, some of which have to encompass song discipline, and that I think will be something, we're taking that on a further stage. So the drill project is a way of saying, okay, well, this is us starting to fiddle a bit with some machines. And what comes next is, I think, some extremely serious fiddling with machines.
Now, the version of Public Place that appears on It's Beginning To and Back Again, which is the new Wire album, is way, way, way different than the one that is on A Bell As A Cup.
Yeah, I think that song's. It was a song when we recorded it in the studio. It was we wrote it in the studio, so it hadn't had any life outside the studio, and I think it did develop a long way through its exposure to ambience and people.
So I think we should check that out.
And I think, one more thing to say is that it's actually the piece which retains most of the live. There is quite a lot of the stuff from the live performance in there, and we added to it rather than just taking it all out.
Now, would that be the atmosphere at the beginning? How it's very set up in a very ethereal sense, or
no, more the basic guitar part and Bruce's guitar part are there from the original recording, and Robert's percussion. And the other thing is, I'm talking about it because it's actually my favourite track on the album. I think it's a very good atmosphere.
Is that including the end where it sounds like he's dragging a pick down the guitar string? Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, that was live. That was the intro to It's a Boy. We always did it like that live, because it was a very quiet piece, and there was, of course, the shock value in going from the sublime to the ridiculous of suddenly going into boom.
All right. Wire from It's Beginning To and Back Again, Public Place, WNYU. Wire on WNYU from It's Beginning To and Back Again. Wire on WNYU from It's Beginning To and Back Again. We had Public Place, and my guests are Graham Lewis and Colin Newman from Wire. So, moving on to It's a Boy, which is the next track, which appears on the EP only as an instrumental. So, I'll throw it on here. Kind of put it in the background behind us while we talk about it a little bit. Okay.
Right.
So why release it in the beginning as only an instrumental and then go back and do it again with lyrics?
Well, actually, of course, there's the original version, which is on Bell As A Cup. It was a song which was always we always played live. We did this version for It's Beginning To and Back Again, and basically we weren't quite decided about what direction to take it in, and between Graham and myself we came up with a series of overdubs which were basically, for myself it was the piano and another sound which was doing the basic chord structure, and Graham the sort of whale sound, isn't it? Both of which seemed to fit with a more restive mode of the song. And what happened was basically that this version, It's Beginning To and Back Again, got mixed really with those elements, not so much featured. And it was suggested that a mix be done, a kind of instrumental mix be done using those elements more.
I think it was PK's idea.
Yeah, the new age version, basically.
It's PK thought. He said, I've been putting the track up, and if you take the drums out, you take the voice out, it works. So give it a whirl, see what happens.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Very ethereal atmosphere. You keep bringing that word up, atmosphere. Do you guys think in those terms a lot? Would you say?
Atmosphere is a good word to describe this record, because I think from my point of view, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sometimes isn't as finely honed as I would like it to be, personally, but I think it's in the nature of it, and it shouldn't be like that. It should be more like a series of atmospheres, and I think it works on that level.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, talking about atmosphere, I think personally when I'm working on something, I think that's when you know that you've got something which is going to last, or something that you can work on when you actually have got an atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important, you know, to keep generating that. You might eventually move a long way away from it, but I think it does in a way give you a landscape, a place to, a space, you know, something where, a context for the noise which then inhabits it.
Let's check out the version that is on It's Beginning To and Back Again. Wire on the New Afternoon Show. Wire, WNYU from It's Beginning To and Back Again. And someone just called from New Rochelle saying they just tuned in and said, "What is this? Wire songs redone? What's going on?" And as we were talking a little bit earlier, the songs were basically recorded live both in Portugal and Chicago, basic tracks, and then taken back into the studio and reconstructed. Now, what was the deal with Portugal? I mean, how was that show?
We had it's a very special set of circumstances. I'll try and keep the story short. We went to Portugal for the launch of what is Portugal's second music magazine. I mean, it's quite a small country, and their industry is developing small. And when we arrived, the magazine had supposed to have come out a month before we'd arrived. Well, in actual fact, it didn't come out till 2 weeks after we were there. And to be reasonable with the Portuguese, I suppose, is that I think they'd agree that they're not very together. And in fact, they even forgot to put the posters up for the shows until the day before, and then someone admitted the day it was on. So instead of playing to 5,000 people, we played to 500, who were all people, I think, you know, sort of associated with the industry, like journalists, etc.
They'd heard the rumour.
They'd heard the rumour.
The general public knew
and
nothing.
they'd kept it a secret, because there was a political thing where this magazine was run by Rupert Murdoch, and there were lots of people in Portugal who didn't care for Rupert Murdoch, and obviously the only other music magazine in Portugal were not going to publicise the fact that the other one was going to appear. And so that was Lisbon. We played to 500 people. When we got to Oporto, Lisbon doesn't talk to Oporto. So we were in this very peculiar situation of our tour manager said to the promoter, he said, "Look, open the doors, it's okay, you know, let's go for it." And the guy said, "I have." And there were about 70 odd people there. Now,
this is a baseball hall,
you know,
Really?
capable of holding something like 5,000 or 6,000 people.
right. So Mick, our tour manager, he said, "Well, look, let's blow it out. You know what I mean? These people are completely incompetent, etc." And we said, "No, hang about. We have here a unique situation, and we thought that a unique solution should be constructed." So what we did was we played 3 numbers without gaps, and we played exactly an hour. And that, I think, in a way was a conclusion. You know, we keep talking about these conclusions of what it was possible for the group as it was with its instrumentation to do. And we liked it. liked the way it was. So that's why those 3 tracks are the way they are. As you said, Over Theirs is extremely long.
Right.
I hope it's not boring, I don't think, but
No.
it is long.
Right.
But Portugal's, I think it's a good place to go for a holiday. To go and work in, it's a little bit taxing, I think, because not many people actually manage to go and play there, because I think there's probably one PA system.
Right.
But I think it was about a month before the only thing that had been in there would been John Cale, and John Cale had played to 5,000 people just playing piano, and basically they'd gone to headbang, you know. So it was odd. It was a very odd experience.
We just heard It's a Boy, and that's a natural transition for a radio person like me to ask you about your son, Colin, and having a child that you do. Has that influenced you any, or is it taking more time away from your music, or how would you say that's changed you?
And to quote a person strongly connected with this group, sharpens the mind wonderfully, concentrates the attention. Basically, if you're a father, you haven't got much time for messing around. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do what you're going to do. And I feel that since Ben was born, I'm only really involving myself in things I really want to do, to the extent that I really want to do them. And I feel more direct, more on the ground, and I think I like it very much.
You also told me that your wife Malka played in Minimal Compact. Is she still involved with them?
No, Minimal Compact rather sadly don't exist anymore.
Now, does she play on the track on the Wings of Desire soundtrack? Because those were some older songs, and
That's her song.
That's her song?
Yeah, When I Go. That's I actually produced that. I don't think it says it on the.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't say it on the sleeve, but.
Did you see that movie? Did you like that movie, Wings of Desire?
Yeah.
It was called. Actually, it's strange to call it Wings of Desire, because when I saw it, it was called Angels Over Berlin.
Huh.
Which is interesting. I thought it was a great movie, and the point at which Marco's voice is heard, coming out of the just at the point where he finally comes down to earth, it's amazing.
It was very interesting to see the movie, because we recorded the Ideal Copy and The Bell Is a Cup Until It Is Struck in Berlin. With the Ideal Copy, we did that at Hansa Studios, and there's an incredible sequence where the old man's walking around in the wasteland, which is Potsdamer Platz, which is, you can actually see Hansa. And there was a phenomena which I filmed when we were there, which had been captured on the film, which is this extraordinary thing where you get when all the birds rise, the black birds, and the sky almost goes black. That happened one day when we were in the studio recording, and everybody just went, "What the is that?" But yeah, it's a really good movie.
Now, speaking of Germany, the next track we want to hear is Illuminated, and I couldn't help but think about Kraftwerk when I listened to this, the computer world era, really. And also, when I listened to it, I thought about this whole revision thing you guys are going through, and it seemed like maybe that's not quite finished yet, and maybe that would appear in another form somewhere else. Might be presumptuous of me to say that, but
you might jolly well could.
I think you might well be right, actually. In fact, PK's done an edited version of it with some overdubs, which I think is pretty good.
How would you take the Kraftwerk connection with that song?
I'm blushing. I think Kraftwerk I think they've done some very, very influential work. Tremendous.
All right, well, let's check it out. Illuminated, which does not appear anywhere else. It's the first time it's on this album. It's Beginning to and Back Again. We're talking with Colin Newman and Graham Lewis from Wire on WNYU. Wire on WNYU. Illuminated from the new LP. It's Beginning to and Back Again. And my guests are Graham Lewis and Colin Newman. And I had you hold off for the reason why this is called Illuminated and why it provides all these questions and not so many answers. And Now I ask you to illuminate us.
It's called Illuminated because it used to be at the beginning of the set, and the set was one in which we'd just got a new lighting man, and it's called Illuminated because the lights went on at the beginning.
In fact, they started with very, very little light, and gradually the light dawned.
We can be literal as well.
Yes. I want to ask you both about your solo work, both just billed as Colin Newman, solo material, and also He Said. So, Colin, why don't you start out?
I'm basically exploring a new approach at the moment. And I don't think the ramifications will work their way through for a while yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's coming.
And He Said seemed received very well for the most part.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the next He Said project will appear more quickly than the last one. The last one I finished, well, it was 15 months before it came out. I actually finished it before Bell is a Cup Until It Struck. But it didn't come out because of various record company politics. But of course I've been working on material since then. And I've been working with two guys in Sweden, and we've been putting some new stuff together. So hopefully it won't be too long. I'm going to go back to London and do a big revision of Watch Take Care, the first track on the album, and put some new pieces on the 12-inch. So that's where it is at the moment. Okay. Bruce has been busy. He's been working with two choreographers, not Michael Clark this time, a guy called Ashley Page and a girl called Letty Collins. And he's just finished the AC Maria's album, which he was producing. That's finished now. And he's doing some music for an animated film as well. So
wow, he's very busy.
He's well busy.
How about touring for you guys, speaking of business?
Next year, I think it will be obviously post reinvention. It will be the first post reinvention tour next year.
So that's
we don't
90?
1990.
1990.
Wow.
Mega Wire.
All right. Well,
it's going to be mega. It's
not mega
going
death.
to be totally mega.
Well,
it's like you won't have seen it before. We won't have seen it before.
And nobody will know what's going on.
And nobody will know what it is. Least of all us.
Well, we hope if you make it back through New York, you'll come by and spend some more time with us and talk more about what's going on with you
we
guys.
We might be too mega then.
No, that'll be a pleasure.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again, guys.
Well,
and
thank you.
Any final, well, not final words, but...
this is called, I believe it's going to be The Offer, which is one of the extra tracks on the CD. And I think it's extremely charming.
Okay. The new Wire LP is out. It's beginning to and back again. And you should go get it. That's all I can really say about that. And this has been the New Afternoon Show, heard Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. until 7:30, but we went a little late today to talk to these guys, but well worth it. And you can find us, as I said, every day here, Monday through Friday at 89.1 FM. And some of the records heard on this fine program have been provided by The Record Runner, 5 Jones Street off West 4th Street between 6th and 7th Avenues, carrying domestic and imported releases. My name's Hugh, and we're out of here. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.